You know a man like this. He has brilliant ideas, grand dreams, the spark in his eyes of someone who was surely born for something extraordinary. He speaks of incredible projects. He lives on possibility itself. And yet he never brings any of it to completion. For every failure there is a ready excuse. It was not the right moment. It was not the right person. The world has simply not understood him yet. Perhaps he is a friend from your childhood, a younger brother. Perhaps he is the man you love. Perhaps he is your father. Someone who, whatever his age, seems to have stopped somewhere in time. A grown man who still behaves like a boy, emotionally unsteady, allergic to commitment, forever chasing freedom and forever fleeing any real responsibility. And perhaps, somewhere in you, a part still hopes that one day he will change. I gave this pattern a name, the Puer Aeternus, the eternal boy. It is the archetype of the man who refuses to grow up, who lives forever in transition, as though he were always preparing to live, but never quite beginning. He enchants you with his youthful energy, his creativity, his spontaneity. But there is a shadow behind that charm, an inability to meet the demands of the real world. He expects life to bend itself to his desires. He waits for others to solve what he refuses to face. He idealizes the perfect woman, the perfect work, the perfect life. And when reality fails to match his fantasy, he flees, he breaks away, he gives up, and returns once more to the cycle of unfulfilled dreams. He believes himself too special to submit to the dullness of routine, when in truth he is simply paralyzed by the fear of failing, by the fear of being disappointed, by the fear of growing up. If you have ever tried to help a man like this, you know how exhausting it is. You grow tired of advice that goes unheard, of support that is wasted, of trying to pull someone who, deep down, does not want to move. And the cruelest part is that he makes you feel like the guilty one, as though you were the problem for asking too much, for wanting him to mature, for refusing to live forever inside an endless almost. But the truth must be spoken. This man is trapped inside a fantasy of freedom that is, in practice, a prison built of fear. And if he does not wake, he will grow old without ever having truly lived. This is not an attack, it is a mirror. And if you have watched this far, it is because something in you recognizes this pattern. Perhaps in someone close to you. Perhaps, if you are honest, in yourself. The Puer is not merely a kind of personality. It is a deep archetype, a force that moves through the unconscious of countless men, and is so often mistaken for charisma, for spontaneity, for the spirit of a free man. But behind that light surface there is something far more serious, an almost instinctive refusal to grow up. I observe this pattern in many of my patients, and in the myths of every age. The Puer is the one who will not leave the paradise of childhood, the warm psychic womb where everything is cared for, protected, resolved for him. He lives in the shadow of a glorious tomorrow that never arrives. He is the eternal son of the gods, the chosen one, the special one. And yet, in practice, he never once takes hold of his own life. You have seen this from close range. Men who leap from one job to the next, always in search of something more meaningful, who begin their projects in a blaze of enthusiasm and abandon them at the very first obstacle, who fall in love with great intensity and then vanish the moment the relationship asks for maturity, who speak endlessly of spirituality, of self-knowledge, of freedom, but cannot pay a bill on time or hold to a single commitment for more than a few months. And it is not for want of intelligence, nor of talent. The Puer is often brilliant, sensitive, brimming with potential. He has a living connection to creativity, to inspiration, to imagination. But it is precisely because of this that he dwells among ideas and escapes the weight of the real. He wants to fly without first building wings. He wants love without commitment, success without effort. He wants all the rewards of adulthood without paying the price of becoming an adult. And when the world refuses to hand him this, he revolts. He blames the system. He blames his parents. He blames life itself, but never himself. I came to see that the pure suffers from a strange disconnection with time. He is always in a not yet, always waiting for something to happen first, the right idea, the right woman, the right phase of life. He lives in the when and never in the today. And for this reason, he does not truly live at all. He merely survives, fed by dreams that slowly turn into burdens. But there is another side to this, because the pure, for all his immaturity, also carries a force that must not be dismissed. He is the source of our inner youth, of creative imagination, of the power to reinvent a life. The problem was never the boy who lives within the man. The problem is when that boy seizes control of the whole of his existence. If this is reaching something in you, subscribe to this channel so the rest of this journey can find you. There is something magnetic about a man ruled by this archetype. He is light. He is spontaneous. He speaks like a poet, dreams like a visionary, and lives as though he stood outside of time. He follows no rules. He accepts no labels. He clings to nothing. And to many, this is fascinating. He seems free. And who does not long for freedom in a world half suffocated by obligation and commitment and empty routine? But here is where the trap lies. This freedom is an illusion, a carefully built disguise designed to hide the very thing he fears most: reality. The pure is not free. He is a fugitive. He flees from pain, from failure, from rejection, from frustration, from the passing of time. He escapes the weight of being responsible for his own life. And every choice he avoids, every decision he postpones, every responsibility he hands to someone else deepens his prison, the one he has dressed up to look like autonomy. He says he does not want an ordinary job because he was born for something greater. But the truth is that he is terrified of routine, of hierarchy, of commitment. He says he does not wish to bind himself to anyone, that relationships are prisons. But in reality, he is mortally afraid of surrendering, of being truly seen, of ever being held to account. He says he hates rules, but deep down, he simply does not know how to live with a limit. This freedom he sells to everyone around him is in fact a childish refusal to face the hardness of life. He wants to remain eternal, weightless, unmarked. And to do that, he must keep himself in constant motion, like a balloon drifting on the wind. But time does not wait, and the real world, sooner or later, asks for its price. I said that the pure lives in a kind of suspension, forever floating between heaven and earth. He does not want to come down. He does not want to put down roots. He does not want to deal with the concrete and the solid. But without roots, nothing grows. Without effort, nothing comes to flower. And without pain, there is no transformation at all. True freedom is not the absence of every limit. It is the capacity to consciously choose what deserves your commitment. But the pure does not choose. He escapes. And in that escape, he does not only sabotage his own life, he slowly destroys the very people who try to love him. In the beginning, everything seems enchanted. The puer shines with an energy that draws people in, that inspires them, that wraps itself around them. He is passionate, enthusiastic, wonderfully unpredictable. But in time, that shine begins to dim. What was lightless turns into absence. What was sensitivity turns into instability. And what looked so much like freedom reveals itself at last as flight. It is here that the shadow of the puer begins to show its face. This shadow is a quiet one. It works through small daily acts of sabotage. He forgets his commitments. He lets deadlines slip. He grows disorganized with money. He changes his mind without warning. He breaks his promises. But all of it comes wrapped in a poetic story. I am not ready. I do not want to force myself. I only need a little more time. The harsher truth is that he is afraid of growing up, of making mistakes, of being judged, of being, in the end, ordinary. And so, without knowing it, he sabotages anything at all that would ask him to mature. And this wounds everyone around him. The one who loves him lives the slow anguish of loving a man who is magnificent in essence and absent in practice. He says he loves, and then he disappears. He says he wants a future, and never takes a single step to build it. His family watches in frustration as he squanders his talent, his intelligence, his chances. His friends grow weary of holding up a man who lives forever in the land of almost. And like every archetype, this shadow feeds on what remains unconscious. He does not see that he is destroying himself, and worse, he becomes convinced that everyone else is the problem. He accuses the world of being dull and rigid and controlling. He looks at those who have matured and sees traitors to freedom. And so he withdraws, further and further, certain that he is being faithful to his own essence, when in fact he has become a servant of his fear. I once said that we do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The shadow of the pure is not to be denied, it is to be faced. The problem was never that he carries a child within him. The problem is when that child becomes a tyrant, ruling over a life that could have been full and real. And this sabotage runs deeper still, because the pure is rarely alone. Behind him, almost always, there stands a silent presence. No eternal boy appears out of nothing. Behind nearly every man who refuses to grow up, there is a quiet figure, sometimes loving, sometimes suffocating. One who shields him from the world, and in doing so, keeps him from ever learning to face it. In my work, I call this figure the archetypal mother. And when her presence grows too great, she becomes something else, the devouring mother, the one who, instead of giving life, holds it captive. This mother can be a literal one, a real and overprotective mother who did everything for her son, who never let him stumble, who caught him at every fall, but who, without ever intending it, kept him from growing his own roots. Or she can be symbolic, a partner who slips into the role of caregiver, a grandmother, some feminine figure who protects, who nourishes, who embraces, and who quietly asks for an eternal loyalty in return. The puer then comes to seek, in the world of women, not a companion, but a replacement for his mother. Someone who will understand him without ever demanding, who will accept him without ever confronting, who will support him without ever setting a limit. This bond is comfortable, and it is deeply destructive, because it spares him again and again from the necessary confrontation with the world. As long as he is being cared for, he need not act, he need not decide, he need not grow. He remains in a state of endless emotional childhood, waiting for the women around him to resolve the one thing he will not face, the call to become an adult. And the symbolic mother is so often caught in this same game. She believes she is helping, she believes she is loving, but in truth she is feeding a cycle of dependency that drains the life from them both. I was emphatic about this. The greatest tragedy is when the mother refuses to let the child be born, psychologically. The body ages year after year, while the psyche stays an infant, longing for comfort instead of reaching for ground beneath its feet. And this grows more painful still when the pure enters a relationship. He falls in love quickly. He idealizes his partner. He lays upon her impossible expectations, as though she alone could fill all the inner emptiness he refuses to admit is his. But the moment the relationship asks for depth, for commitment, for responsibility, he flees, he pulls away, he sabotages it, or worse, he blames her, because in his heart he never truly wanted a partner. He wanted a mother, disguised as a lover. To break this dynamic requires pain. It requires a separation. It requires the cutting of a psychic cord. But it is exactly this rupture that begins the true work of individuation. Growing hurts, but to refuse to grow hurts far more. There comes a moment in a life when the disguise begins to fall apart. The unfulfilled dreams grow heavy. The failed relationships leave their scars. The life that once stretched out in every direction, full of open doors, begins quietly to narrow. And the man still living under the rule of the pure is forced at last to look in the mirror and to ask himself, how long will I go on living as if I had all the time in the world? This is the breaking point. The moment when the pain of staying a child finally grows greater than the fear of becoming a man. But anyone who imagines that this maturing is a gentle thing is mistaken. I did not spare my words in describing it. I said that individuation, the process by which a human being becomes who they truly are, is a kind of psychic birth. And like every birth, it is made of pain and of blood and of a symbolic death. The first step is to face the collapse of the fantasy, to understand that life will not wait for you to feel ready, that there is no perfect moment coming, that no one is going to arrive to save you. It is to see, at last, that the real world is not some hostile place to be avoided, but the only stage on which anything true can ever happen. That to grow up is not to betray your essence, it is to build it. But for that you must mourn. You must grieve the idealized boy, the imagined life, the promises that were never kept, and above all, the symbolic mother. To kill the boy within does not mean to smother your creativity, your lightness, your dreaming soul. It means to stop using him as your excuse to flee from life. It is to let the boy go on living, but now under the leadership of the man. Maturity asks for construction, for structure, for consistency. It means saying no when it will be so much easier to run. Committing even when everything in you craves freedom. Working with focus even on the days when no inspiration comes. Staying present in a relationship even after the first idealization has crumbled to nothing. It means trading the thrill of the new for the slow, transforming power of continuity. And here is the secret. When the pure is at last integrated into the grown man, he does not vanish. He is transformed. He becomes the very wellspring of creativity, of vision, of intuition. But now he is guided by a mature and steady psyche, one that is finally able to act in the world. This is the true rebirth. The moment the eternal boy stops running from reality and begins instead to build with it. If you have come this far, it is because something in you knows the urgency of all this. Perhaps you have seen this pattern in someone close to you. Perhaps you have seen yourself in every word. And if so, there is no shame in it, none at all. Because every one of us in some measure carries the temptation to stay a child in a world that asks us to grow up. We have all fled from some responsibility. We have all dreamed of shortcuts and hoped that life would hand us comfort before we were ready to face it. But the truth is simple, and it is brutal. Life does not wait. It demands, it tests, and sooner or later you will stand before the same choice: to remain trapped in the world of promises or to cross the bridge into the world of things actually fulfilled. And that crossing becomes possible only when you choose to grow. Not when you feel like it, not when everything is finally perfect, but when you decide with courage that the time has come to stop running. I once said that the man who will not confront his own demons is condemned to meet them at every corner of his life. The Puer is one of those demons. He hides himself under the names of freedom and authenticity and the misunderstood genius. But in practice, he eats away at your roots and prevents anything solid from ever being built. He will not disappear on his own. You must face him, acknowledge him, integrate him, and above all, choose to become greater than he is. Maturity is what is born in you the moment you stop waiting for someone to come and save you and begin to save yourself. When you understand at last that responsibility is not a prison, but a path to your own power. And when you finally see that true freedom is not doing whatever you please, it is having enough structure within you to choose what is necessary. So now I want to hear from you. Which part of this struck you the most? Say it below in the comments, and be honest. Sometimes the act of putting it into words is the first step toward giving shape to what you have only felt. And stay for the next video. This descent does not end here, and there is another essential piece of it still waiting for you. It may hurt a little, but it will free you. And in the end, that is the only thing that matters: real freedom.